Mike Wall. Welcome back to another episode of the Agent Revolution podcast, the place where we deconstruct the biggest challenges facing today's real estate agents so that they can build a sustainable, profitable, and most of all, fulfilling real estate business. Our mission is to build a community of well-informed agents who better serve their clients. I am super excited today to bring back my friend, Mr. David Tamm, who is the smartest guy in real estate. Today, we're talking about how the pandemic has changed the way real estate agents generate leads and market themselves online. And we're going to talk about a bunch of other cool, nerdy shit. But before we do, make sure and book your free 30-minute business strategy call at meetmikewall.com. Mr. David, are you ready to rock for a second time?
Let's do it, man. I love the energy.
Let's do it. Real quick, man. For those who didn't see our first episode, give us a quick background bio on yourself, my man.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so I was in the military. I did the Air Force thing for 9.5 years. I was enlisted officer. I really fell in love with marketing as I was getting my MBA. And just because it was like the marriage of human emotion and business, like getting people to do things that they may not know they want to do, right? And so from there, that's where we started FirePoint Solutions. It was my brother and I, Chris, lovely human being, which is not like the top 5 real estate CRMs in the country, got acquired, a lot of good stuff. And then we started CAS Services, which is, it's a big company. We do digital services, custom websites and artificial intelligence driven SEO, some of the stuff we talked about on the last call that's now live. And we're in 370 something markets there. But the crown jewel that I consider in CAS Services is our doctoral research arm. So we publish white papers and do doctoral level research in the real estate space and other ancillary industries to answer really hard questions and figure out where is the market going, and then providing that information to equip not just our clients, but the public, right? We're going to talk about some of that on the call today.
Yeah.
As far as best practices and all that kind of stuff. And then from there, we've got a bunch of insurance and mortgage companies that my brothers run, but we're all in the real estate space for the most part.
Yeah. And I wanted to have you back on, man, because I was just so impressed in the initial conversation you and I had together. You obviously have a wealth of experience to share with the audience, but you had a really good way of just being able to put everything in layman so that it was easy for us real estate agents to understand, because we're not the smartest people on earth, right? And so that being said, man, it's been a journey, I know, for you, but you've obviously you've come a long way. You've learned a ton, and that's why I think that you are a good candidate to be able to get back on the show and share with our audience. And we've got a ton of stuff we want to talk about today. But what I really want to do is I just kind of want to shut up, man, and let you talk, because I know you've got a bunch of stuff, a bunch of data, especially since the last time we talked, that you can talk about today and share.
Yeah, I love it, man. Before we dive in, I want to ask you a few questions.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Put me on the hot seat.
Yeah. So what are you seeing in your market with respect to not just COVID, but where the market is still going, right? I know we've got inventory issues, but what are some big key takeaways that I can help explain why they're happening that you're dealing with in your market right now, or anybody, your listeners?
Yeah, you know what's crazy, man? And so the crux of the situation where, like, somebody was just texting me about this the other day, man, and it's like, I've been in the industry for a while, right? I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but I've been licensed since 2002. And I have seen a lot. I was in the marketplace in 2008. It had a huge impact on myself, my family. And I saw when no one could sell a house, right? And everybody traditionally in our marketplace and consumers, and then anybody we talk to or have a conversation with in or about our industry, we're always looking through the lens of a seller. And so I think where agents are making a mistake right now is they're telling people it's a good market. It's actually a terrible market. It's the worst market I've seen, and perhaps it's even worse than the market we saw in 2008. It's just that the pendulum swung completely to the other side. Where nobody could sell a house in 2008, guess what's happening in 2021? No one can buy a house, right? And so, like, right now we're seeing in our marketplace here locally that before a buyer lands on a house that they can actually go under contract on, they're making between 3 and 5 offers. And most of them are well over list price. And we've seen some $25,000 to $50,000 over list price. Here in tiny old Dayton, Ohio, where our average sale price may be around $175. That's ours here personally. And so like those numbers are huge. And so I can't wait to hear you speak on some of this, because I know you'll have a ton to add, but that's just part of it, right? I mean, I did a video this morning, David, there's over 4,000 agents in our local marketplace here.
Mm-hmm.
There's just over 700 listings.
Right.
So even if one listing equals 2 sides, that's still only feeding roughly over 1,400 agents. That means over half the agent population in our local board is not making any money right now. And so there's a huge disconnect right now. But what I do know also, when there's a huge disconnect, usually creates huge opportunities. Right. And I know that's what we're going to talk about today, and I'm excited about it.
Yes. Well, and you nailed it. There are little pockets across the country that I'm not going to even mention where that inventory problem is starting to slow down. Things are starting to open back up, I should say. But you're right. Like your market or Boise, Idaho, or here in Denver, if you look at one of the metrics I always like to look at is what is the per capita saturation of real estate professionals in a geographic region, right? So if we were to take how many zip codes would you say are your working area, Mike?
I'm just going to guess maybe and we cover probably an extensively big geographical area. So I'm just going to guess we have maybe 20.
Perfect. So one of the cool exercises that I like to do is figure what that number is out. Okay, so how many agents do I have to compete with in my working area? I usually do that by zip code because that data is accessible, right, and in open source. You don't usually have to even pay for it. It's government data. And then what is my population? And understand what is the density of number of realtors, not just per listing, but per people in my market.
Uh-huh.
Because you should know this stuff because it should drive your strategy of, well, am I wasting my time going after seller leads? Are there buyer opportunities? Should I be looking at instant offer? And one of the things that we talked about on the last time I was on your show is ways to insulate yourself against those market dynamics, like volatility, right? And some of the stuff that we were just starting to work on, we now have fully established. And really what those are feedback cultivation, getting more reviews from your current book of business, and flexing your muscle in an effective manner from the work you're already doing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that today, showcase some results, and then brain dump, let you ask questions, some best practices, things I guarantee your listeners are not doing.
Right.
Okay. And then the other is organic, like really taking a deep dive internally of your business model, and every penny that's going out the door from a marketing perspective, is it going towards a paid lead, something that is volatile, or is it going towards something organic that is evergreen that will pay me back dividends in the coming months and years once the market swings back? Okay. Right. And these are two largely misunderstood things in the real estate space. And I'll show you some data on that. Yeah. And the tail end, where I think you're going to really love this, and I haven't shared this with anyone, is we've got a study currently in work with the man, the myth, the legend, Eric Hatch, about lead follow-up.
Yeah.
What we're finding, man, is the lead follow-up actually depends on what type of lead and what market you're in. So if you call first, if you text first, if you email first, actually depends on where the lead came from, when, and where. And this is mind-blowing because we all typically were like, oh, well, okay, we send a phone call in the first 5 minutes, a text message and an email in the first 24 hours, and then I hit them 7 times in 10 days. Wrong. Okay. Because it depends on the lead source. Yeah. And I'll show you this, man. If they're coming from, let's say, Facebook, your response rate can go down as much as 15% if you pick up the phone first. It's not what they're looking for. Yeah. Now, if you're registered organically on your website and they're an actionable lead, you should be calling first, followed by a text or an email. So this is where our current, research is going to figure out, because it is such a finite resource and because we are so overly saturated with agents in our market, how do we capitalize and be better than all of our competition?
Could we take that even a step further? Because what I've found is that depending on the age of the client, in other words, like let's say baby boomers, right? I think baby boomers are still comfortable getting a phone call, and then maybe Gen Xers are both text and phone call, but maybe millennials want to be, they just want a text message first, right? They don't actually want to talk to anybody until they're, ready to set an appointment.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the direction I'm going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're exactly right. But it's market dependent. So it's the answer you'll get from me is it depends.
Yeah.
And so what I would say, well, if we're going to do this exercise, and you said 20 zip codes, great. We've got 4,000 agents, 700 listings. So we know what our ratio is. Now we have to look at where are all of my leads coming from. Mm-hmm. So figuring out what those buckets are, usually that's not too hard because you're paying for a lot of them, right? So I've got my organic, I've got my website, my sign calls, and my Google business listing. They found me organically, right? Although there is spend associated with those if we want to bring down enough. And then I've got my paid leads. So I've got my Facebook and my Zillow and my PPC and all the stuff, the lottery tickets I'm scratching to try and put gas in the tank that I'm trying to wean everybody off of, right? And that people don't like me because of this, because I don't believe in the paid lead situation that we're dealing with right now, because with the paid leads, the prices are going up, they're volatile, they're unreliable, and the quality of lead is questionable. Opposed to, if we can capture somebody based off of their own cognitive search behavior, I need to sell a home or I need to buy a home. And if we can get that early enough from when that first thought germinated in their mind, the quality of lead will be far superior to that of any other paid source. It's a scientific fact.
Yep, I could not agree more. And let's be completely honest here. Most companies generating leads are only generating buyer leads anyway. A lot of people have not figured out how to generate good quality. Right. Let me preface that by saying good quality seller leads. And not a lot of people need buyers right now. I mean, let's face it, man. People are looking for sellers because listings are gold. Would you agree?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I'll give you my secret sauce right now, how we do it. We have a young man that he set 47 appointments in the last 7 days. And he's probably one of the top inside sales agents in the entire country, and he's eating up the leads that we provide. Now, this is not a sales pitch, right? We're a premium brand. We are definitely not for everybody. We are semi-market exclusive. So let's just preface that. But what we do is when we're looking for an actionable seller lead, I need 3 things. I need a name, an email, and a phone number. Now, if I can break that name into a first name and last name, great. Not really relevant. What we do is we data layer. So we've got connections where we can go into, let's say, your 20 zip codes and purchase a DSP list of demand side provider list of everybody that's in the market to buy or sell. Okay. And then we have our own algorithm that analyzes their behavior. How many times have they been to Home Depot? How many times have they visited a real estate office? What's their credit score? How much equity do you have? How many kids are in the home? And then we apply that algorithm to the list and say, okay, well, statistically, this bucket is 75% likely to sell a home or buy a home in the next 12 months. And then we take that and encrypt it, and we upload it into whatever lead venue we're going to use. And then we have AI, real artificial intelligence, go in, look at our copy, create 300, 400, 500 isotopes of that copy, and we run them all in parallel. Yeah. Now you've done statistically what you should be doing in the lead generation space, and I've got a sniper scope instead of a shotgun. Yeah. And that engagement, what we see is pretty crazy. Like your cost per lead goes way down, number of leads goes down, and your quality of lead goes way up. That's the perfect world. Yeah. Right?
That's obviously what you want. Listen, I mean, at the end of the day, real estate agents, and I guess any salesperson for that matter, no one likes to sit down and make 100 phone calls a day. You know what I mean? And so if the goal is to set an appointment, right? And you can call 16 people versus 160 and set the same amount of appointments, then sign us up. You know what I mean? It's like, where do we go to get that?
Yep. Well, and I don't know. Well, based on your price point of $175K at 3% on one side, it's probably feasible that you would pay $300-400 a seller lead if you knew that you could close them on a cash conversion cycle of 90 days every single time. Yeah. Why wouldn't you, right? And that's where we get into this weird situation of dogma, of worrying about cost per lead opposed to quality of lead. And then turn the ROI on that lead in conjunction with the cash conversion cycle. If I can do 2 or 3 of those in a year, I'll pay 2 or 3 times more.
Sure.
And that's an analysis that I would say confidently 90% of real estate professionals have no clue about.
Right.
They haven't gone into their CRM. They don't understand the data enough. They're not pedigree marketing people.
Right.
I wouldn't expect them to understand that.
Yep. So, and one of the biggest disconnects in our industry has always been, well, it's just about more leads, right? I got to create more leads. Let me generate more leads, right? And let me waste more money generating leads that I'm just not going to convert because, either one, I'm not calling them, I'm not following up with them appropriately, or number two, I just don't have the bandwidth, right?
Yep. So do you want me to show, I think we went over a sample web audit last time. Do you want me to show a sample CRM audit?
Let's do it, man.
Okay, so we have this service, and at the end of the call, I'm going to give you some free stuff, Mike, and your listener base some free stuff because we just like to come to the table with that. I want to provide you totally for free. So I'm going to give your listener base some free web audits, some free CRM audits, no strings attached. Awesome. We don't end up working with you for the next 100 years, fine, don't care. I want you to be better. I want you to understand that there's more cash laying in your data bank right under your nose than there is out there.
Yes.
Right? In the immediate sense. So let's look at that. All right. So I'm going to share a screen here. Give me 2 seconds. Yep. Now it's going to ask me to share a window, right? So I've got a lot of stuff on here. Okay.
Yeah. If you look at the bottom, I think you can do us two to the left and then your screen to the right.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to maximize this really quick, and then I'm going to share my entire screen. So I do apologize for the technical delay on this. 1 second.
You're good, man. You're good.
Right. So what we've analyzed is, oh, perfect. Here we go. Application window. You nailed it. Okay. Can you see my screen?
I'm going to add it right now.
Okay.
There we go.
Beautiful. So we came from real estate. We came from real estate CRMs and then consulting and digital services. And my brother ran the largest real estate team in the state of Colorado, where I pull a lot of my information and data from because he's way smarter than I am. Let's just say that for the record, okay? And one of the things that we looked at is best practices for lead follow-up. What is the standard, right? And so for what we're looking at is speed to lead. How fast can we get to it? There is doctoral research, Neil Patel, all kinds of research out there that shows the faster you can get to a lead, the better quality and the better chance you have of turning that into revenue. The reason for this, Mike, is the fact is, if somebody's going to register on one website or one advertisement to purchase or sell a home, they're going to do it 4 to 6 other times in the next 30 days. It's a fact.
Wow. Okay.
They're not going to just you. And I'll explain why from a consumer behavior perspective here in a minute. Sure. So speed to lead matters. Variety of attempts matters because we're all not wired the same. And it actually depends on the geographic region you're in, i.e. the demographic of the populace there. Mm-hmm. In Florida, phone calls are great. They work extremely well. It's older folks. They don't like to text. We know this. They're definitely not comfortable with video. We can prove it, right? So then we look at call frequency, right? So we all read the books, 10 Days of Pain, all that kind of stuff. And then looking at the revenue that's our long tail, right? We have a client. He's like, hey, dude, I had a client on a prospect on a drip for 7.5 years, never talked to him. They finally picked up the phone and said, hey, listen, I've been seeing your content for 7.5 years. Let's do a deal. Like that stuff happens all of the time. And so every single one of your leads has to be set up on those. And if the message doesn't match the lead type, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And a lot of this stuff, guys, is free, costs zero money.
Yep.
So we actually look at, this is real world data where we'll go in and let me blow this up just a little bit here and we'll segregate the leads by how old they are, because how old the lead is dictates how they should be followed up with. Right? It just makes perfect intuitive sense.
Right.
I'm not going to treat a lead that's been in my database for 2 years that I've never talked to the same way that somebody that's registered in the last 7 days. So our standard and this is the cash services standard, we can grade and customize to your standard to still show you the holes in your system. Right. Let's set the record straight. We have never performed a perfect CRM audit, i.e. we have never found somebody that's above 90% across the board.
Yeah.
Okay? Never even.
Hatch was close, wasn't he?
Hatch was very, very close. Yeah. We've got a couple of others. The guy I was just talking about, Matt McKenzie here in Denver, who is just crushing it. He is very close. Yeah. They're still not there. Here's the deal. It's like you and I, when we go to the gym, we know we're not going to bench 600 pounds. Yeah. Let's work on it every single day to be the best us we can be. The CRM audit is that tool. Yep. And so what we do is we pull a lead out and say, okay, let's look at leads that are 7 days or younger, the really hot ones that just came in. Did you try and call them? If so, was it documented? If not, why not? Because what we find a lot of times is actions are happening, they're not getting documented in the CRM.
Mm-hmm.
So for you and I as a business leader, how the heck do we manage our team? We're not.
Right.
And then did they get a call, a text, and an email in the first 24 hours? And this individual, this is real world data from a guy that came to us and said, hey, I had the best quarter of the year. And in my real estate career so far, I'd like you to do a CRM audit to see where I'm missing the boat.
Yeah.
Well, good sir, you're flushing about half your revenue down the toilet. That's a fact, because you're not doing what you're supposed to, and you've been poaching and cherry picking all of the all of the hot leads and neglecting all of your other sources.
And no one likes to hear it, but they need to hear it.
Well, they need to hear it, but it's often a leadership problem.
Yeah.
They got in and they said, oh, I paid for this CRM, it should do my job for me. I paid for this ISA, it should do my job for me. You need somebody managing those people and pace with the current market and checking in on them. Otherwise, we are path of least resistance. We're going to get complacent, especially in a position like this when you're calling hundreds and thousands of people. And so what we'll do is we'll grade then the rubric of how many opportunities were there, how many did you hit, how many did you not. It's not a shame thing. This individual, you did 28% of what you were supposed to, right? And then we do it again for 30 days and 90 days and a year. And we'll go out 2 years. We go out 3, 10, 5. It doesn't matter, however many years you want. And then we give you recommendations of how to fix it, right? So we'll talk about this at the very end. If you want, we can do this for you. We can do it for any of your listeners on a first come, first served basis, so long as we have the capacity, totally free of charge. We normally charge $1,500 for this process.
Yeah.
Because if you get one transaction out of it for the rest of your career, it's an ROI positive activity.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's the CRM audit piece. But also what we're finding is you need to go a step further. So actually glean from this information. If I were to be looking at this information on the audit and say, well, I've got these particular leads where I did get a phone call in the first 5 minutes, but I missed the other 2, and these got saved searches, but these didn't. Usually what you'll find is there are patterns of behavior that are happening in your business where, oh, a Zillow lead comes in, perfect. Let me pick up the phone and call and text and everything else. And then a PPC lead comes in. Oh, I don't have a great track record of success with those. I'm going to ignore them. They're going to get neglected, And so there should be a separate action plan for each type of lead. That's where we go completely wrong in the real estate space. Okay. Is if somebody came in from Facebook and they engaged a paid advertisement with a picture of a pretty house versus somebody that came in through Zillow or came in through a Google ad or came in through organically on their own search behavior, there should be different pathways to reaching a transaction with them. Okay. And that's what some of the research that we're finding right now that we're talking about as far as lead follow-up, a call first or text first, or let them breathe for 5 minutes and then give them a call. That's where we need to dive really, really deep that we'll uncover through one of the CRM audit processes. Great. Okay. That's a lot of information. Any questions on that?
No, I mean, again, to me, it's like, it's the difference between being an employee and being a business owner, right? I mean, you get to a certain level to where your business can't scale any further unless you know these metrics. And this really allows you to get full transparency in what's going on in your business. And sometimes you don't like what you see, but it also offers an opportunity for improvement.
Absolutely. And so we have people that come back and say, that's a bunch of hooey. We're doing fine. We're perfect. That's cool too. Like we're not here to just, cast stones or anything, but we're here to be a sample and say something might not be right. Go take a look at it. Here's some recommendations, right? So we do that on the website as well. And one of the things that we're seeing with the latest algorithm shift is a lot of the big companies, right? So the mega brokerages, the 100+ agents, the multiple expansion markets, they're moving away from a lot of the paid traffic. And there's a reason for this. So what happened is with COVID is in the last 10 to 12 months, we have seen a demarcated change in search behavior. So it used to be, hey, if you're on page 3, you might as well be on page 300.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not true anymore. In fact, we're seeing this because we have so many clients doing SEO. We have millions of data points, literally millions of data points across the country. that show actionable leads are being generated from page 2 and page 3 on a regular basis now.
Yeah.
Why? Because people are spending more time on the internet. They understand the value of their own home. They understand the value of the relationship, and they're doing their research.
Yeah.
We have people that we took them from page 10 to page 3, and they're loving it. Their organic traffic is completely hockey stick.
I'll give you the perfect example, my man. And so you can see I'm still bought into that old level of thinking, but I can give you a great example. My wife and I are looking for bedroom furniture right now, right? And there's a shortage of everything right now. And so we were going through, I forget, we typed in bedroom sets, dark brown or whatever she was looking for.
Yeah.
But like, we weren't finding what we were looking for. In other words, it was basically like us looking for something that we weren't finding. So we went through all of page 1, we went through all of page 2, and we were on page 3 and ended up clicking on something that caught my eye, right? And so now that I go back and think about it, it's no different than when you're walking, through a car lot and you walk through rows and rows of cars. You just know they're not the one, right? But 3 rows over, you see the one that you were looking for the whole time. And so I think what you're saying on some level is maybe people are taking the time now to dig a little bit deeper, right? And to really, what is in that headline? What is sticking out to you? What is going to draw you in as a consumer?
You're absolutely right. And we saw the latest algorithm shift actually put more weight on reviews. And not only the reviews, but the responses to the reviews. How you interact with your client base impacts how you index and how you crawl and how you rank. And so I want anybody listening to this who's been told if you're on a page 1, you don't matter, to just remove that surgically from your brain cavity, because that is not true. It is not true. If you can get on page 2, and the reason a lot of that is page 1 has been saturated by billion-dollar players.
Right.
Millions of dollars on SEO. If you go sell home fast in or sell my home for most money in your geographic region, just do it. Go do it. You'll see you've got Zillow and Realtor and Redfin and Trulia and blah, 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 blah. And then the real agents start typically at the very bottom of page 1, middle of page 2. And then a lot of them are on page 3. The consumers, when consumers are looking to purchase a house or browse an MLS, or just kick tires and look at pretty $4 million homes they can't afford, just like me, they're going to those billion-dollar players. When they're looking to sell a home, they're looking in the exact opposite direction. They want nothing to do with Zillow and Redfin and Trulia and Realtor because they don't want to be handled by a billion-dollar company.
Right.
We know that for a fact because we saw conversion rates on sites that we moved from 100% buyer focus to 100% seller focus, or even 75 seller focus, 25 buyer focus, right? That blend, conversion rates from organic traffic to lead go up hundreds of percent. In average, 460% increase in conversion rate. From just changing your website from being buyer focused to seller focused because you're meeting what the consumer is looking for. That doesn't mean you can't have a buyer focused website too. You can have them both. You know what I mean? And so, but this is very contradictory to what the billion-dollar companies are trying to tell you, so that they continue to step in the middle of the consumer behavior transaction, capture the lead, and then sell it back to you. Nay, rent it back to you, right? That you're just getting used if that's the case. You're actually putting money in their pocket,
right? Which
is wrong. That's why we're doing what we're doing, is trying to provide analytical, scientific, data-backed research to tell you exactly what you should be doing to survive. Because of those 4,000 agents, Mike, that are in your market for the 700 listings, how many of them do you think are going to be in business 5 years from now?
Probably less than 75% will be in business, right? So there'll be a 25% fallout between now and this date 5 years from now.
You're absolutely right. It is in that it is one of the highest, if not the highest, attrition career fields in the country.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's got the lowest barrier to entry.
Yep.
And you can make the most amount of money if you're halfway decent at it.
Yep.
Right? But that's where we're missing a lot of this education and the ground game right out of real estate school to teach this stuff, to equip you. They don't want you to know this stuff.
No.
They're
Yeah.
shipping it from you so they can continue to buy their yachts, you know, and
Yeah.
right? So I have an ask for you, Mike. I want you, over the course of the next couple of months, to have conversations with other guests like me, to have conversations with your listener base, and I want you to come to me with problems. I want you to come to me with questions, and then I'm going to allocate our resources to do a white paper with you. And we're going to answer those questions, and we're going to say, hey, we did the data research, we got the data points, we're getting it peer reviewed, here's what's happening.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's seasonality, whether it's instant offer, whether it's tectonic movement in the digital space. You come to me and I'll provide that for you, okay?
Yep.
Love it. Sweet. Okay. So I've got my agenda here. We know not all leads are created equally. No. So my recommendation for anybody listening to this, go into your CRM. If you don't have a CRM, go onto that, you know, bar napkin and purple crayon where you keep your lead flow and take a look at what lead follow-up each lead is getting. Is there bias that certain lead types are getting better follow-up than others? If so, why? If you need some question answered, go to cast.services. There's a contact button at the top. Just reach out. Hey, I saw the Mike Wall podcast. Mike Wall's sexy. I want a CRM audit. Okay. and we'll get one in the queue. We can probably handle 5 to 10 free ones. Okay. Yeah. We did a sample CRM audit to show that. I want to talk a little bit about review cultivation. So, and we can go as long as you want. I'm writing a book on the subject.
Yeah, we've got time. Come on.
Feedback cultivation. Okay, perfect. So feedback cultivation in the real estate space. What we're talking about is how to get more reviews from your current book of business. So, Mike, I'm going to put you in the hot spot. What do you do to generate reviews?
So right now what we're doing is we're hitting them during the, so at contract. So once we go under contract, right? Mm-hmm. Once we get through inspections and once more 3 days prior to close, and then once more 10 days post-closing. Okay.
How are you asking for that feedback or review? Is it an automated tool? Is it somebody on the phone? Is it an email?
It's an email.
Okay. Any idea what your actual response rate and then affirmative action rate, essentially, I got the review I wanted?
It's not great, man.
Ballpark it. 10%?
Yeah.
10%.
Yeah, 10% fair.
Usually we see between 5 and 25% as a baseline if you have no concerted strategy. I.e., I just came up with this because I think it's what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
That's pretty much it. We are in the most disenfranchised, disjointed, wild, wild west industry left in the country.
Yeah.
Period. It's going to change in the next 10 years. We know that. It's going to change in the next 5 years. So the way and the reason that I'm so passionate about feedback cultivation is it's free. Is I can flex some muscle and show that I'm better at my job than my competition, the other 3,999 real estate agents or whatever in my market, and that I'm engaged and I remember when I respond to those reviews. Yeah. So I am going to brain dump some high-level strategy for things for your listeners to think about. If you want to use it, great. If you want to flush it down the toilet and think it's poo-poo, that's fine too. You're not going to hurt my feelings, okay? So when we look at generating reviews, do not ask for a review. It is turning somebody into a sales tool. It is a slap in the face. They just saved their entire life to pay down their equity, get their credit into good shape, to do a transaction with you, right? It's the biggest transaction they're ever going to make in their life unless they're purchasing multi-million-dollar yachts. It's a fact. So we want to treat them as such, with white glove, respect, and caring, instead of, oh, you bought a bologna sandwich, give me a review.
Yeah.
Okay. So how you go about that, there's a lot of ideas and strategy out in the space, and we're doing a lot of research to figure out where the needle is moving and where it's not. Mm-hmm. Now, there are individuals that we work with that say, listen, I'm just going to barrage attack every single one of my leads with phone calls, emails, and tests, asking for a review with a link.
Right.
Does it work? Yeah, actually it does. It gets them a lot of reviews, but the quality of the review is typically 5-star, no comment.
Yeah.
The research shows people my age and your age care more about the responses and engagement to the review than the review itself. That is insane, because that's the exact opposite of what they teach you when you're getting your B degree or your master's.
Yeah, it is, man.
And so we need to internalize that and realize that client engagement, because people are spending more time on the internet, they're going to page 1, page 2, page 3, they're reading the reviews, they're reading the responses. How do I capitalize on that? And what we do is points of maximum excitement. Did we talk about this on the last podcast?
I think I don't know if we went in depth about it. I know, like we did talk about the first part, but I don't think we went to this part you're getting ready to go into right now.
Oh, it's so good. So what we do is we dissect the transaction on the buyer side and the seller side. And typically, psychology tells us that when somebody is excited about something, they are more apt to reinforce that behavior and put their name to some sort of testimonial. And so what we do is we string out the transaction. For every point of maximum excitement or possibility of maximum excitement during the transaction is an opportunity to ask for feedback. Feedback, not a review, right? Because when somebody says the words themselves in a positive or negative response, we have the ability then to capture a review if we want to, right? So it's an intermediary step to reinforce that psychological pattern. So when the home first gets listed, when they get the first offer, when they're at the closing table, once they've moved in, a 30-day retrospective, all those points, when they're excited because the needle is moving and things are happening in their life, right? They're moving forward in the game of life. You have the opportunity. Hey, Mike, I know we just got an offer for 5K over. It might not be the offer. We could get one for 10K over. Is there anything else I could have done better for you and your family to make this a better experience? Just let them talk, right? Let them talk. But it requires that personal approach. However, you can also do it on video. Hey, if you get that offer or they're at the closing table, I'm going to send you a really quick video request for some feedback, et cetera, et cetera. Once they've said the words, no, Mike, it was the best thing ever. We're super excited. We really liked working with you. Hey, is there any way that we could get that posted on X, Y, Z, whatever venue, wherever you want to go?
Sure.
Facebook, Google, Yelp, Zillow, Nextdoor, it doesn't matter. But before you direct them to a venue to make that post, do your research.
Right.
See where you're lacking, right? So if you're lacking in reviews on Google, push them there. If you're lacking in reviews on Facebook, push them there. When I say lacking, it's compared to the competition in your geographic region.
Right.
So if you don't know where your biggest 3 to 5 competitors are and their review standpoint and organic rankings, go figure that out. And if you need some direction on that, it's a matter of spending 10 minutes behind your computer screen to figure all this stuff out.
Okay.
Most people don't do it. So once we've asked for the feedback, they've given us positive feedback, we've made the ask, we give them then the destination. So you should have links to your Google Business Listing, Google Business Profile, where you want them to leave your review, your Facebook review link, which you can just copy paste. There's easy ways about this. And then all you've got to do is every single transaction that went well, right? Some transactions go sideways, we know this, but the ones that went well, go through that process and then document it. We have clients that it's an extra 20 minutes of workflow per day for one of their admins, and they've gotten over 180 5-star reviews in the last 6 months. Every single one of them came with multiple sentences of feedback of how incredible it was to work with them. And every single one of those got responded to by the business owner. And then all those got shared with the entire company. They have 100% agent retention. There are agents fighting to get in the door to work with them. Because of this activity.
Would you recommend people going back retroactively and responding to reviews?
Excellent question. So it depends. So what I would do is I don't want to go out to transactions that are a year or older and say, hey, can I get a review? But there are elegant ways to work around that. So do you have a private Facebook group, Mike, of like your past clients and raving fans?
No.
Well, you could. Right. And in one of those, you could say, hey, listen, I've got this private group, hush, hush. All my past clients are in there. We give away movie tickets, insider information, listings before they come on the market. You can ask questions for high-level real estate advice. We'll do trivia giveaways. We'll do a happy hour once a quarter. I mean, that's that kind of stuff. Then you can go back and say, hey, we'd love to invite you into this group. Also, I know we sold the house in 14 months ago. Is there any way we get some feedback on how that went?
Right.
And just open the door to the conversation, because when I said earlier in the podcast, there's only a few things that will insulate a real estate business against the dynamic forces like Zillow or like millions, tens of millions of dollars pouring into the paid search space by those companies. This is one of them. Is generating more reviews. Now, there's nothing wrong with going back to somebody that's 6 months old and saying, well, hey, we just closed. We'd love to get some feedback. Or in that case, it may be appropriate to just provide them the link. But we have seen conclusive evidence by providing just a link, especially in an automated fashion, decreases the response rate and the make good action, leaving the review.
Yep.
All right, that is conclusive. Does that answer your question?
It does. And so let me ask you this. So let's say that client did give you a review a year ago, but you've never responded to it. Is it okay to go back and respond to that review, even though it's a year old?
Totally. There's nothing wrong with that.
And would you recommend it?
It depends. So I would say it depends on the cultural fit of the organization itself. So what I would not do is go in one evening and go respond to the 300 reviews that you never responded to. What I would do is I would pull up my CRM, I'd have a couple cups of coffee, and I would go through the names that are on my review that I never responded to and go into the CRM and see, well, what was that transaction all about? Maybe you can remember. I can't. Oh, wait, we needed that 6-foot fence because of the Great Danes that were going to jump it. I'm going to leave some germane information on the response based off of what I found in my CRM on the review. Because then they're like, oh, wow, he remembered? He cares?
It's relevant. Yeah.
Relevant. Exactly. Right.
And one other thing I wanted to ask you, because I know people are asking themselves this question, is there any one place you would recommend over the other to get reviews?
Oh, that's a really good question. So Zillow scares me because I know that there are other venues that have moved to throttling reviews, making you pay for your reviews to be displayed, all this kind of, mucky stuff.
Yeah.
I like Google. I worked on a project at Google headquarters, and I know that they have their heart in the right place when it comes to people looking for what they're finding or people searching for what they want to find. And so they don't want to adulter or taint the review situation at all. They're very clear about wanting that to be transparent. So I like to focus on Google. I like to focus on Facebook also because there's a lot of traffic and engagement there, especially if we have that Facebook private group or whatever, however you want to phrase that. Zillow is one of those where I feel like you need to be on the board, but don't put all your eggs in that basket.
Got it.
Yelp is the weird one. Just get on the board. They'll probably pull it off anyway, because who knows why they do what they do, right? Yeah. Does that answer that?
It does, man. Well, we're running up against the clock here quickly. Is there anything that you want to touch on before we have to put a bow on this one, my man?
I just want to reemphasize, as more money continues to pour into the real estate space, please take a really hard look, pause, take a day off, do it on the weekend, internally at your own systems. What am I doing to capitalize on the leads I already have in my database? What am I doing to generate more reviews? What am I doing to look at my website to make sure that I compete in the space where everybody else is pouring money in? And do those things first before you go start scratching lottery tickets for more paid leads because I might get a hot one, right? And if you do that, you will be set up for success, or at least on the pathway to.
Love it.
Yeah.
It's always fire, my man. So obviously you've thrown a lot out there, man. One being the web audit and amongst many other things that you guys are doing. If people want to connect with you, David, what is the best way to do that?
Well, I was going to tell a joke and have you email my brother, but I don't want to confuse anybody. So if you go to cast.services, in the upper right-hand corner of every single page, there's a Get in Touch Today, okay? And there's also a Contact Us footer that's sticky. It's there on every single page. Go there. Say, hey, I heard you on the Mike Wall podcast. If you want a free web audit, buckle up. It's a 25-page PDF juggernaut that I'm going to deliver to you personally. Or a CRM on it. Let us know. We can probably give away, let's do 5 and 5 for free to start.
Let's do it.
And if we get some more and more interest, let me know. And then homework for you, Mike, come to me with problems, okay?
Come to you with problems, right?
Come to me with problems, and we'll do some research and answer them for you.
Okay? Fair enough, my man. Fair enough. Well, as usual, it is always a pleasure to have you on the show, man. I'll probably throw out a link. We'll have to do another one, man, because we we cover so much material, and this show seems to go by so quickly. But
Yeah.
you know, I love sharing these stories week after week, because I know this show is literally changing agents' financial lives, my own included. So do me a big favor, if you know someone that might enjoy the podcast, please share it with them. And if you like the podcast, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you like Mr. Tamm's episode today, leave us a 5-star review. Don't forget to visit MikeWallLive.com, where you can get 8 hours of absolutely free real estate business training. Mr. Tamm, thank you so much, my man. It was a pleasure having you again.
You bet. Absolutely, Mike. Talk soon.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
You too.